Heyo, friends. Welcome back to Her Faith at Work. I'm super excited about this episode. It's going to be a little bit different and very what I hope is practical. I'm calling this episode a book reports. So I decided, as I'm being inspired by someone that is close to me, to go through all of the books that I have and kind of figure out which ones are my favorite and which ones I would really recommend to other people. So as I saw him doing this, I'm thinking, what a gift to tell other people about the books that you really love that have impacted you. And so I thought that I would do the same for you. So welcome to the book report edition of Her Faith at Work. This is going to be great. And I'm super excited. So let's get started. Truth time. When's the last time you raised your hands for a swift kick in the pants? Well, I'm the no-nonsense type friend who's going to tell you when you have food in your teeth. So let's get right to it. This is your infusion of sacred and secular, calling you higher into who God created you to be, exploring how intimately faith applies to every part of your life, and how you can live that faith every single day in the marketplace. I felt the tension of separation of church and state. I've been one of the few women at a table of men for decades, and I've stood my ground. Are you ready to do the same? These tools, resources, and interviews are meant to do just that. I'm Jan Touchberry, and it's time to share Her Faith at Work. Hey, so today, as I said in the intro, I am really excited to talk to you about some books that have really been pivotal in my world, rocked my world, you might say, as not only as a Christian business owner, but just as a human being, quite frankly, just trying to figure things out. These are not going to be your basic, typical, quote, business hustle books. These are ones that have really pushed me to not just work smarter, but also live better. And so keep in mind that I'm going to link all of these in the show notes, and some of them may pique your interest. Other ones you're like, that's okay. It's fine. But all of these have made this list. I mean, I've read, I can't even tell you how many hundreds, maybe thousands of books, but these are ones that I would read again because they were that good. So the first one that I want to bring to you, and let me preface this by saying these are in no particular order. Like, they're not number 1 through 10, as in number 1 is the very best book I've ever written. And this is not a backwards end of the year list that we're counting down to my number 1 book. That's not what this is. This is just in random order. These are some books that have been super pivotal in my personal growth. And if you know me, you know that I am a personal growth junkie. I fondly call my car my mobile university. So I do feel the need to say that when I say I've read these books, probably 9.9 out of 10 of them I actually have not read because I don't do a lot of reading. I do a lot of Audible. I would say in a list of my top 10 resources, Audible is up there because I commute back and forth to work. And if I'm not listening to a podcast, I'm listening to an audiobook. And so most of these were consumed that way. And then this is just the way my brain works. And if I find a book that is incredibly practical that I feel like I need to take notes and want to go back and read it again, or be able to pull things out, I will actually then order the physical book, and I'll go through it again with the physical book and listening on audio because my brain just assimilates better when I've got a visual and audio going at the same time. And so this first book that I'm going to talk about is one of those. I actually have the physical book and I've listened to it on audio, and I've done it together. So it's called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And this book is like a big slap in the face to the whole hustle culture. Keller's basic point is stop trying to do a million things poorly and focus on the one thing that actually will move your needle. And let me just tell you, as somebody who in the past has taken pride in multitasking, this book slayed all of that. it really has hit home to me as a believer because it feels like the reminder that we all need to keep the main thing, kind of like in Matthew 6:33, where Jesus says, seek first the kingdom and everything else is going to fall into place, right? So in my business, instead of chasing 20 different goals, I ask myself, what's the one thing I can do today that's going to make everything easier? And boom, the priorities just fall into place. Now, I will be honest and say that I am not as disciplined as I would like to be, and I don't really do this on a daily basis, but when I'm doing large goal planning, and then if I have a particularly busy day that I really have to make sure that my priorities are in line in a way that they're going to move that needle, this is absolutely the way that I do it. This method. This book is going to show you how to stop drowning in busy work. Hello. And start making some real progress, which I know we all want to do. Progress is king, right? And honestly, that's a word for somebody out there. If you're tired of spinning your wheels, The One Thing by Gary Keller is a must read. All right. Book number 2 is Cues, Cues by Vanessa Van Edwards. Now, I came across this book because I heard her on a podcast. And honestly, I wish I could remember which podcast I was listening to. I'm sorry, I cannot. But you could probably Google Vanessa Van Edwards podcasts, and some of the episodes that she has done would come up. And I bought her book after listening to her on this podcast. It was so fascinating to me. So her book is all about picking up on nonverbal communication. And she says that if you're not picking up on that nonverbal communication that's going on in every conversation, you're missing half of the conversation. Her book really dives into how people communicate without actually saying anything at all. And as business owners, we have to get this stuff down, y'all. Look, when you're in a meeting or negotiating a deal or bringing on a new client, it's not just about what you say, it's how you carry yourself, it's how you listen, it's how you make people feel. And the same thing goes for you looking at them. It's not all about what they say, it's how they're carrying themselves and their body language. So we need to be aware. And for Christian entrepreneurs, this is huge because we really should be all about connection, right? So people do business with people they trust, and mastering the art of body language and nonverbal cues can really make or break that trust. Think about it as another tool in your toolbox for being the kind of leader that God is calling you to be. Somebody who's aware, intentional, and empathetic. And quite honestly, it's just kind of a cool superpower to have. All right, book number 3. This one I've actually listened to twice. And I don't think I have the physical book, but I know that I've listened to the audiobook twice. And I'm a huge fan of his podcast. This book is called The Power of One More by Ed Milet. This is one for the grinders out there. If you consider yourself a hustler and a grinder, this book is for you. Ed Milet's whole thing is about pushing yourself to do just one more rep in the gym, one more call, one more act of kindness. And here's why I kind of love this book as a believer. It is all about perseverance. It reminds me of Galatians 6:9 that says, don't grow weary in doing good, because at the right time, you're going to reap the harvest if you don't give up. I have used this in my business when I feel like giving up or when I feel like I'm going to hit a wall. What's one more thing I can do today that'll move me forward? It really is not about being superhuman at all. It's about small, consistent actions that build momentum. And let's be real, success does not happen overnight. So you got to dig deep and you got to give it just one more push and trust that God has got the rest. All right, next book. This is by one of my very favorite podcasters in the entire world, Miss Jenna Kutcher. A couple years ago, she came out with a book called How Are You Really? And this book hits different. It's for those of us who are caught up in the hustle and we haven't stopped to ask ourselves, am I actually happy doing this. Jenna really gives permission to pause and get real with ourselves and real with others. Sometimes we are so busy building businesses or chasing success that we forget to ask if it's even what God really wants for us, or quite frankly, if it's what we want for ourselves. This book really, I read it at a time that I needed to take a step back and think about rhythms, about balance in my life. Am I just working to work, or am I working towards something that feels aligned with who God made me to be? It really is a call to be honest with yourself. And as Christian entrepreneurs, that is a huge part of how we discern whether we are on the right path. So don't be afraid to pivot if God's leading you in a different direction. Jenna reminds us that it's okay to slow down and recalibrate and ask yourself, how am I really? And I'm just going to put this out there. I think it's a really great practice to look at people in the eyeballs who are close to you and ask them the same question. How are you really? Okay, next book. This really might blow your mind because I know that her books have blown mine. I just picked one to highlight in this, but she has several, and she has a podcast, and she has an app, and all the things that she does are a little bit mind blowing. If you've never read Dr. Caroline Leaf's book, Think, Learn, Succeed, you are missing out. Dr. Leaf gets into the science of how our thoughts literally shape our lives. And you know what I really love about her? She is a neuroscientist that backs every single thing up with scripture because she's also a believer. Romans 12:12 is one of the main scriptures that she uses a lot. Like, she uses a lot of scripture in her books, y'all, but Romans 12:12 you find over and over again. And it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's exactly what this particular book is about. It really is kind of like a master class in mindset. Dr. Leaf breaks down how you can change the way you think to become more successful in business, in life, and even in relationships. And let me just say, this isn't just like, quote, positive thinking, fluffy stuff, because I ain't got any time for that. Y'all know. This is about understanding that our thoughts literally can create patterns. And as Christian business owners, we can either let negative thinking sabotage us, or like the Bible says, we can renew our minds with the truth of God's word and use that to head in the direction that He is calling us to go. I've personally used a lot of what I've learned in this book to tackle challenges with new attitude. And guess what? It really legitimately works. And like I said, she also has an app. I highly recommend it. I will link it in the show notes with all of these books because I cannot off the top of my head remember what it's called, but I will link her app in the show notes as well. All right. Next book. Have you heard of the Queen, Brené Brown? Her book, Dare to Lead, fantastic. She literally is a queen when it comes to vulnerability. And in this book, Dare to Lead, she shows us why leadership really, and being vulnerable in leadership, is a superpower. As business owners, we think we need to have all the answers and look strong all the time. But Brené's message in this, nope, vulnerability is where it's at. People connect with people that are real, and that's where trust is built. And so from a Christian perspective, this really is a no-brainer. Jesus led with vulnerability and humility, and Brené's book just reminded me that it's okay not to have everything figured out. Whether it's with your team or with your clients, being real about your struggles does not weaken your leadership, it strengthens it. And I have learned that over and over and over again when I lean into this principle. I've learned to approach tough conversations with more openness, and I'm telling you, it has made a world of difference in how I lead and how I am in my business on a daily basis. All right, next book. A little bit of a disclaimer. I love this guy, but he's got a mouth on him. Okay. Gary Vaynerchuk. His book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, changed the way that I think about marketing. This is a little bit of an older book, but I'm telling you that it is still very valid in its principles. And so Gary V, as he likes to be called, he has got a style that's really in your face, but his strategy, gold. The premise here is super, super simple. Okay. Jab, 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 right hook basically equates to give, 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 and then make the ask. It is all about serving your audience before you ever try to sell them anything. And we forget that so many times. For Christian business owners, it should resonate big time because we are called to serve first. This book really has helped me rethink how I market my business. It's not about throwing up ads or hoping people bite or posting and praying. It's all about building relationships by giving away value. Hello, freebies. Whether it's content, advice, or just being helpful. The sales are going to come later because people will trust you. Gary Vee puts it out there like it is, and I'm here for it. So serve first, and the rest will follow. And if you don't feel like you have a good grasp on what that really looks like in your business, or you don't feel like you have enough that you're giving away like freebies and things like that, I would love to have a conversation. I love helping people strategize this stuff, and I love me some freebies. I can rock them out like it's nobody's business. So I'm your girl. Let me know. All right. This one, what can I say about this book other than it was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call for me as somebody who is constantly driven to be busy. Like literally, you guys, I don't know, some of you may identify with this, but I'm the type of person who likes to be just on time or maybe a couple of seconds late because I can calculate how much more I can get done before I have to leave wherever I am to go to the next thing. And I like to squeak every little ounce of productivity out of every moment of my day until this book wrecked all of that. It is called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. Man, it is. This one will rock, it's going to rock your world. Literally, it will rock your world. So, as entrepreneurs, y'all know we're always on the go. We try to squeeze one more thing into our day, but Comer's like, nope, you need to slow down. And you know what? He's right. Hurry is the enemy of peace and productivity. John Mark dives deep into how slowing down and really embracing Sabbath or rest is crucial, not just for your soul, but for your business. And that is counterintuitive, I think. As a believer, I think this really hits home for me because I think back on Jesus' ministry and he wasn't in a rush. So why am I? This book gave me permission to cut the noise and to take a deep breath and to trust that God's timing is better than mine. It just is every single time. I started incorporating more rest into my routine, trying really desperately to get better at not feeling guilty about it. And guess what? I find that when I am in those blocks of focused time, I'm more productive because I'm not burning myself out. So trust me, if you are feeling overwhelmed, this book will change your life. It is a must read. Absolutely must read. I've read this one 3 times and I would probably read it again. Yep. Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. Okay, finally, last but not least, I want to say I saved the best for last, but they're all really best. I mean, they're great books. So this particular book, it came to me at a time that I desperately needed it. And if you are a woman that is either struggling with your leadership or you have these leadership gifts, but you are not free to really live into them where you're at, this book is absolutely for you. So it's called Lioness Arising by Lisa Bevere. I've had the privilege of hearing her speak a couple of times in person, and she and her husband actually have an app where they do free messages and Bible studies. I'll link that in the show notes as well. Super good. It's called Messenger X. You're impressed that I remembered the name of that app, aren't you? I didn't even have it written down. Go me. Anyway, back to the book. Lioness Arising by Lisa Bevere. So if you're a Christian woman in business or you're in the corporate space, workforce, wherever, you need this book. Lisa calls women to rise up in leadership with the strength, courage, and grace of a lioness. I love that. Lisa really is fierce. She is fierce. You will know that instantly when you go on her Instagram, because she is on fire right now and she's on a mission to get women to step into their God-given authority. And I believe that God is doing something in that space, specifically with women, urging us, pleading with us, and giving us opportunities to step into that authority that he has given us now for such a time as this. So for me, this book was a super great reminder that we are not supposed to shrink back. And so many times in a world where women are sometimes frowned upon for being forward. And I really, if you've listened to some of my other podcasts, I really did go through a time where I felt like I was forced to shrink back. I lost a lot of that boldness that I know that God created me to have. And this book came at a very, very pivotal time in my life and helped me realize that I was never created to shrink back, and he created this boldness inside me, and I need to step into that just like a lioness. So this book is not about striving. It's about walking in the strength that God has already put inside of you. And so her message really is empowering, especially for women who feel like they've got more to give, but you're holding back or being held back. It is time to stop hesitating, people, and it's time to start roaring. So there you have it. If you're looking for a solid reading or listening list that'll challenge you to grow as both a business owner and a believer, these books are it. They really have pushed me to be more intentional, more focused, and more aligned with my faith. And so I'm, again, going to link all of this stuff in the show notes. I really encourage you to go grab a copy of whichever one or ones that spoke to you. None of these are affiliate links. I am putting them here because I truly, genuinely believe that they are worth your time to listen or read through them and to let God use them to help you grow to the next space that he has for you. So I hope these have been beneficial for you. And I would love to hear your feedback after you read some, or if you've already read some, I would love for you to shoot me a DM and say, hey, yeah, this is how this book affected me. So that's all for this time, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Her Faith at Work. If the Lord put someone on your heart that you think needs to hear this message today, will you just smash that share button? And if you haven't already followed the show, I would love for you to do that. Super extra points if you hop over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That helps the algorithm pick us up and drop us right in the AirPods of people that need to hear what the Lord is saying to them today. I hope you'll come back for the next episode of Her Faith at Work. The podcast comes out every Wednesday. And if you look down in the show notes, I've even got a couple of free downloads for you that I think you will really enjoy. With that, have a great week. See you next time.